Just a thought for Sunday. It is Sunday, super psychic Sunday, super Sabbath Sunday, whatever you want to call it. But I want to talk about compassion for a second because the Latin root of compassion, cum, is with, and passion means suffering. You may have heard of the Passion of Christ, which means the suffering of Christ. Yeah, I have a crazy hair there. Um, but what that means, and I think it's really important for us to think about compassion, what exactly that means. So I think of the fact, or one of the things in the Bible, because you guys seem to really like that lately, and I'm digging that you guys like that. Like I can talk about magic and you guys love it, and then I talk about the Bible, which really shouldn't be exclusively two different things. I think the Bible is the most magical thing out there, but okay. Anyway, I love that you guys are so open to this. So thank you for those of you that have just been so respectful and appreciative of me talking about the Bible. I really appreciate it. But there's a story. I don't know. This is one of the things that gets me in the Bible, why they changed their names from, like, one of Jesus's apostles. His name was Simon, and then he was like, no, you're gonna be Peter. That's like me saying, okay, you're Gracie, but now you're gonna be Shelly. Okay, so I don't know. It confuses me. So if it confuses you too, let me know. Right down in the comments if that confuses you. But this guy, like Simon slash Peter, his like mother was sick with a fever and Jesus healed her. Okay, so that's obviously pretty magical, pretty miraculous stuff right then and there. But that's not the end of it, and that's not the end of the story. And I think a lot of us have questioned whether it's metaphysically, mystically, magically, why do some people get these magical benefits of being healed from diseases or having these near death experiences that are so miraculous, but not every prayer is answered, not every intention is answered. How can we have faith in God or a higher power or the universe or magic or miracles if not everyone gets answered? Does that make sense? And that's where compassion comes into play for me. And this is really, really important, I think, for us to have faith. If we don't have this, if we don't have compassion, then it's pretty impossible to have faith, okay? We have to understand this message. So, Jesus heals his mom, and this is someone he really, really cared about, right? I mean, imagine your mom. This is a big deal. This is his whole family. It's very personal for him. It's a big deal. And then afterwards, all of these anonymous people, he doesn't know them, he's never met them. They're coming up to Jesus and asking for miracles, for him to like heal their families. And even though he doesn't know them, even though it's, there's nothing personal between these people and him, there is something personal because they love someone in their life the way that he loved his mother. So in that suffering that he had of thinking and believing that his mother was going to die, he has compassion. He has compassion for anyone in that situation, how desperate they are, how afraid they are, how scared they are in a situation like that they're going to lose someone that they love so dearly. So he found compassion. Through suffering, he found this link, this connective tissue that made it so personal. So if someone else came up to him and said, I have a loved one that's going to die, he wanted to do everything in his power to help that person and to help their loved one to get better. That's compassion. So, we go back to that Latin root, and it's with suffering. With suffering, we learn these lessons. And I have to question, COVID. I have to question it. And I have to question, my mother's partner died and my auntie's son in law died. And we did pray for them a lot, and it was their time to go. And I've always been pretty accepting of that. But, COVID doesn't really care if you have faith or not. If you believe in God or a higher power, if you are the most magical magician out there, doesn't really care. You could still get it. It doesn't really matter, right? That's not what it comes down to. But all of us are having this experience of just absolute suffering, whether it's COVID itself or some of the repercussions of it, the divisiveness that we felt in the last year. this sense of, I mean, at least for myself, there's times where I'm like, I don't want to be a part of any of this. Like, I feel so disillusioned and just fractured from, this everything that is going on right now, like these arguments, the pettiness, the um just all of the strife that we're seeing in the world. And so if I'm going through this, and if I really want people to not suffer, um, in a way of feeling alienated, if I want people to not suffer in a way of catching COVID, you guys know how much I've talked about the quercetin and the zinc that I gave my mom. Her partner died. My mom's high risk, and she was basically asymptomatic. Like, if I can help one person to save their mom or to somehow reduce their symptoms or the chances of them getting very sick with COVID, oh my God, yes, I'm going to go out of my way, just like Simon/Peter did, for the people around him. And that's compassion, but it does take a level of suffering. And that's why what I've seen studying trauma, I see people who have gone through a lot of suffering, a lot of trauma, they have such a wealth of empathy and such a wealth of, it's true, like people who've gone through a lot of trauma, you know that they have, because they're so sensitive. They can pick up on people's emotions without people having to say anything. They just have a very strong sense of openness to the world, to the energy around them, and they're very aware of people around them and suffering. And I think that that's a beautiful thing that can come out of suffering. It's a gift that can actually come out of something very dark and very scary. And so if we ever stop the story here, right? Like in COVID, or if we ever stop the story in a place of suffering, we're going to be hopeless. We're going to be so disenfranchised. We're going to feel so lonely. It's going to be really sad. But I think back to 9/11. I was just a kid, but do you guys remember the day after and the weeks after how everyone came together? And if you were just another American, there was a sense of unity and compassion, a real sense of compassion. Like there was connective tissue of suffering. And it doesn't matter if you lived in New York or California, or if you knew someone that was in the buildings or on the planes, or if you didn't, or if you were a firefighter or had family members in service. Like we all just were connected in this way of, we've all experienced something extremely painful, and we're going to stay connected more than ever. So even though right now during this time it might feel overwhelming and still kind of alienating, and still kind of scary, I just want to point out the fact that we are going through a time of suffering. We are, and we are feeling the alienation, and we are all trying to figure all of this out. But you know what? If we stop here, we're never going to see that day after. We're never going to step into this place where, we all have gone through something similar together, and we now have a mutual respect for one another. We have that connective tissue of suffering. We're never going to find that compassion on the other side. So today, faith for me is remembering these experiences, remembering that, through suffering, we do become stronger people. Back in World War II, when England was being bombed, there was these publications saying that if England gets bombed, the people are all going to die. They thought London was going to get wiped out. And, it didn't. Just it didn't, which is a good thing. It didn't get wiped out by Hitler. It didn't get bombed, but they also predicted that the people would go crazy from that experience. Their nervous systems would just completely implode, and everyone would just die or go crazy. And the opposite happened. They actually grew in unity together, and they were very strong, and they were very empowered after that experience. So once again, we are going through some unprecedented times. For a lot of us, this is the first time we've gone through anything this confusing and scary and sad as a nation, as a world. But let's not forget that there's always hope at the end of the tunnel. And we go through these things to become stronger, to have compassion, to come together. And we're going to do it this time like we've done it every other time. And what comes out of this might be more beautiful than the world that we used to live in. So that is my faith, and I hope you guys appreciate it or can get something from this message. I love you so much, and have a great Sunday.